So I asked you guys on Instagram last month what you wanted to see more of on my channel in 2020, and at least 4 of you that I remember said more horror book content, and I am so thrilled to oblige. Hey there, creepy peeps. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back. If you are returning, hi, what's up? Hello. As you saw in the title, I'm gonna share with you 5 of the scariest books I ever read in my childhood. Let me explain what I mean by childhood. I don't actually mean like me as a child. I just mean these are like the books that helped like solidify, formulate, instill my love of horror in book form. Clearly, all of this reading has not helped my vocabulary though. And these are legitimately like the top 5 books that have scared the crap out of me thus far in my lifetime, in my 27 years. While these are not ranked, I did put them in chronological order, not of when they came out, but in order of when I read them. That being said, let's start with the one that I read in middle school-ish, maybe freshman year of high school. I was somewhere between 12 and 14. And that is Twisted Summer by Willow Davis Roberts. So the book follows Cece, who spends most of her summers at Crystal Lake. No, not that Crystal Lake, with her family and friends. Cece's family didn't go to Crystal Lake the previous summer, so when they arrived this year, they learned that one of Cece's friends was killed by her crush's older brother and sent to jail for it. Convinced Brody is innocent, Jack and Cece uncover a web of secrets and lies and find out who really killed Zoe. I loved this book when I was younger. Sorry, I didn't realize the glare was so bad. You can kind of tell it's becoming a little worn. The pages are definitely getting yellowed. It's got that lovely old book smell. This was my first like horror book that had nothing to do with like monsters, vampires, ghosts, anything supernatural, because up until this point, if I read something that was scary, it had something to do with like a monster or a haunted house or something. This was the first one where we had a human monster. Maybe not necessarily like a serial killer, but a killer, you know what I mean? I immediately identified with the protagonist, Cece, most likely because she's around my age in this book. I think she's 15, if I remember correctly. 14 going on 15, so I identified a lot with her as a character because we're the same age. The scariest part though, I remember when I first read this, is at some point in the book, I can't remember why because it's been a while since I've read this, but Cece's parents like have to like run back home for something. They have to go back home and get something, do something, I can't remember. Which normally would be fine because it's a lot of her like extended family and friends of the family that are there over the summer. So it's not like she's just like fully alone, but that just makes it so much scarier as she's like investigating a killer who is potentially one of the people that she trusts, one of the adults that she trusts. And that's horrifying, especially when you're reading it as like a 13-year-old. Now let me jump you a little bit forward in time to the summer before my senior year in high school. And of course I had assigned summer reading, but this was one of those fun reading assignments where you could pick from like a list of like 30 or 40 books, and it wasn't one of those things where everybody was reading the same book. So being the young horror fan that I was at this time, I chose In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, which is an interesting blend of fiction and nonfiction following the very real murder of the Clutter family in 1959 and the investigation and arrest of Perry Smith and Dick Hickok for the crime. This book scared me for obvious reasons because it's based on a real murder. This was actually my first foray into true crime, even though you will find this book in the fiction section and not the true crime section. As you can see, this book is extremely well loved. I've read it quite a few times. It's the spine is where it looks really bad. It's getting a little rough around the edges. I definitely credit this book with getting me like into true crime in the first place, because after I read it the first time, I poured, and I mean poured, over articles after articles after articles and some very disturbing pictures of the real Clutter family murder, which just, you know, helped scare me even more, because it was, you know, I knew it was real when I read this, but then like seeing like actual articles and pictures and stuff made it really real. This is also the first book after Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows that made me cry. So let me set the scene for you. It's like 3 a.m. I couldn't put the book down, so I just decided to stay up and finish it. It was over summer break anyway, so it didn't matter. I get to page 246. I actually dog-eared a page, which I never do that. I never did that before this book, and I haven't done it since, but I dog-eared this specific page. Prior to this, I had been reading Smith and Hickok's account, like them walking the investigators through that night of the Clutter murder. Really quick, in case you don't know, just like a 1-sentence summary of what happened. Basically, Smith and Hickok got information that Mr. Clutter kept a safe full of cash. That's why they went to rob the family, and it turns out that was incorrect information, and Mr. Clutter only ever really dealt in checks. So that's kind of like the setting for this. So I've just read them detail how they murdered each family member. And then I read this. Dunce asks Smith, added up, how much money did you get from the Clutters? Between $40 and $50. And I burst into tears. I tell you, I sobbed. I sobbed to the point where I had to take a break. I think I watched some Nickelodeon or Nick at Night or whatever, because it was really late at night. And yeah, I had to like calm myself down, because it was just so real. I knew it was real. And after having read how like brutally and violently this poor family was murdered, and it, you know, their lives only ended up being worth $40 or $50 to these two people. So, all right, so fast forward to Vicky as an undergraduate at the University of Tampa, and she's having to read Dracula for an English class. And, you know, I wasn't mad at this. I was stoked, if you will. Get it? Stoked. You know the story of Dracula. I'm not gonna summarize it for you. Once again, being enthralled by this book, I just, you know, I couldn't put it down, so I stayed up to read it. So many of my most terrifying reading experiences happen because I stay up at night, late at night, to read it, which, you know, everything is scarier at night. At this point though, I was way more well-versed in horror, to the point where I'm like enjoying being scared. I'm, you know, slowly getting to that point where not a whole lot scares me. I'm just enjoying like the adrenaline rush. Reading Dracula in the middle of the night when the rest of your family's asleep with the lights off and nothing but a book light hits different. I couldn't tell you exactly where I was in the story when this happened, but it, you know, it's super late at night, it's dark, everyone's asleep, and all of a sudden, you know, you start hearing your run-of-the-mill nighttime house noises, things that you're normally not awake to hear. And because of what I was reading, again, I can't really remember where I was, I got so scared that I promptly stopped reading, put the book away for the night, turned on all the lights, and slept with the lights on for the rest of the night. This next book I'm going to talk about is probably not what anyone would have expected to be that scary, but somehow it is. To me, it is The Hallowed Ones by Laura Bickle. It takes place in an Amish community during the vampire apocalypse. Yes, you heard me right, vampire apocalypse. It's like a zombie virus outbreak, but it's vampires instead. Katie's community is forced to stay within the borders as they have somehow been unaffected by the outbreak in any way. One night though, Katie finds a young man horribly injured just outside her community, and she sneaks him in and brings him back to health. A big no-no during the vampire apocalypse, obviously. Really loved this interesting take on vampires, because like everything about it was unique and like nothing I had read before, because obviously it's like like vampires in the sense of like a virus outbreak, like literally the same thing as like a zombie virus outbreak, but it's vampires instead. Super unique. plus the unique setting of it being set on in an Amish community, which is just so different from how we live our lives in so many ways. One of the biggest, at least where this book is concerned, is their lack of electricity. Now, before I get any hate, I don't know everything there is to know about Amish communities and what they have or do not have. So I don't know if all Amish communities are without electricity. I just know that the one in this fictional book is. Vampires obviously come out at night, and when night falls in this book, it's dark. It is pitch black, and it makes the scenes so much scarier, especially because it's set in a community that is so completely cut off from the modern world. So there's this like apocalypse raging outside. They don't know what's going on outside. All they know is that somehow the vampires can't come into their community, but it's real scary. And finally, the most recent book that I have read that made me wish I had worn my brown pants is Penpal by Dathan Arbach. I did a full review on this what feels like forever ago. I'll link it up here if I can find it. But, you know, I talk at length about the book in that video, but I'm just gonna mention it here again because the book is that terrifying. The story started as creepypastas apparently, and there's really not a plot. It's mostly just snippets of our narrator's life as he remembers moments surrounding a man who is stalking him. I'm not going to talk about the specific scene that really scared me in this because I don't want to spoil it for you. I really think I really recommend this one. Out of all the ones here, I would, if I had to rank them, I would recommend this one the most. So I really don't want to spoil anything. Somewhere kind of towards the beginning, definitely before you hit the halfway mark, and something happens. And I'm reading at night. It wasn't like the middle of the night like before, but it was, you know, night had fallen, people were starting to fall asleep, and I read this part that scares me so badly that I immediately stop reading, like literally in the middle of a sentence, stop reading, and I refused to read this book at night. The only way I finished it was by reading it in the middle of the day when other people were in the house. That's how badly this book scared me. So those are 5 books that terrified me. But for the ones that you can get your hands on relatively easily, I'll leave an affiliate link in the description for you if you want to check those out. So please let me know any books that terrified you in the comment section. I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons for always supporting me. You can find out the perks to being a patron of mine in the description if you want. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. You can subscribe if you're new here and you like what you see. Become a Creepy Peep today. I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can ring that notification bell down there if you want to, because I don't think it does a whole lot. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay strange. Bye.